Welcome to Good Enough. I am your host, Jamie Vollmoeller. Today, we are going to be talking about the narratives that other people tell about our life stories and why that is or should be something that we look at and see how much of that we actually internalize. So being that I work with a lot of people pleasers, we've gone over a lot that what other people say about us or think about us highly affects those people's behavior, right? And how they see themselves. And, as a feminist and a woman,
with the trauma therapist,
it's really been important for me in my journey and for so many of my clients
you to take
look
control
at where those narratives that we say to
learning
ourselves, that
valuable
internal critic that's in our head, where is that information coming from, right? Because the narratives that we tell ourselves or the stories that we tell ourselves can lead to our decisions.
Your symptoms.
And that ranges from our career path, who we choose to marry, the day-to-day choices in our life.
EMDR therapist
and a lot of the
certified
times, if we're so caught up
professional,
in
Jamie
thinking and worrying
Vollmoeller.
about what other people are going to think of us, then we start believing that the only way for us to be good and earn praise and feel good enough is to continue that narrative and be the type of person other people want us to be. And that really interferes with our own ability to keep ourselves happy. And so the people in my life know that I've been going through some challenges lately. And a lot of the struggle for me is, how is this going to present to other people? What are other people going to say about me? And, the logical me, that's not helpful. But, we all are impacted by our life stories and our circumstances, right? So today I wanted to kind of help our listeners break that down and kind of look at why we give so much credence to what other people say about us. And especially now for me, what I have learned in my life, and that's not just as an adult, in years of high school of bullying, I am not in control of what other people say about me. I am not in control of how other people perceive my behavior. But I have learned in my life that if I act consistently and my actions are consistent with the other humans around me, then the people who matter in my life know who I am. They know what my intentions are. I don't need to explain myself because, we all mess up and they're going to accept me regardless. And the people who don't accept me regardless, or who only feel that I'm good if I continue the narrative that they have of me or who I should be or what I should do for them, those people are not people that are going to further my happiness or my goals or what I need in my life to truly feel at peace, right? And that is so, so important. And it's something that a lot of people struggle with. So I figured it might help to give you guys some questions to kind of help you explore some self prompts for reflection or journaling. What are the narratives that really bother you? So, and how we can start working on changing them. So the first thing would be for a lot of women, our narrative that is given to us by society, by our families, by social media is that we should be small. We should be small. We should not have a very big voice. If you are loud and boisterous, then you are an obnoxious woman or you are an angry woman. It's not exactly, championed in our culture. When men are straightforward and direct, they're, great leaders. When women are straightforward and direct, they're the B word. That's kind of just how we're all socialized. But that can really, really stunt our growth and probably highly contributes to the wage gap in this country, especially because more women are going to school now more than ever. And there's still a crazy wage gap in our country. But that has to do with the way that we're socialized and the opportunities that we don't take because we don't want to be seen as bad, or we don't want to, go out of that narrative that is socially acceptable for our behavior into one that might be more empowering for us. And empowering is interesting too, because for women, a lot of people say, we have to teach women how to feel empowered, and men are just powerful. And that's also a really interesting dynamic just in our language, guys, how much we are socialized to believe that we should be small We have to learn to be empowered, whereas men are just powerful. And I think it would be really interesting to see if all women just stood in their power and took up space and shared their voice, how different the world would be. Because, geez Louise, we have a lot of work to do in this world. So some of those questions, guys. What effect does this narrative have in your life? So if we're going to stick with the narrative of, being a good, virtuous woman, what effect does, if I am leaving my marriage, then I'm a failure, or I didn't try hard enough? How is that having an impact on your life right now? How much energy is that draining from you? What impact is that having on your relationships with your family members? What impact does that have on your kids? That you don't feel like you have a voice or agency in your own home to make your own decisions or do things that are going to be best for you? And what effect is that kind of overall narrative of be small, don't be heard, just do what everyone else wants you to do, really having on your life? How is that holding you back? How is that holding you back in your career? How is that holding you back in your personal relationships, in your personal fulfillment and happiness, right? Like, I work with so many women who, I'll tell you about one woman in particular. She was leaving her marriage and was really struggling with the idea that she was lazy because her husband had told her repeatedly, you're lazy, the house isn't clean, the kids aren't doing the things that they need to be doing, we're not bringing enough money, but everything was her fault. And she was constantly told that she was lazy. And she was told this narrative so often that she believed it, right? And even after she left, it was almost this defeatist attitude of like, well, I'm never going to be able to do anything because I'm unmotivated and lazy. So I'm just stuck in this situation, and I'm not going to be able to get my way out because I don't have that in me. I'm not strong enough for that. And that really can limit someone's ability when we feel like we have no options, right? That limits us. It limits the choices we think that we have available and our ability to make choices that are more in alignment with what's going to make us happy. And when we looked at her life, like this girl, her husband was working one job. She was working three, with 2 children at home. One of which she, has a return to work after 4 weeks. She was a, hard worker and was trying so hard to keep everything together. And after work, she would stay up late and clean the house, and she'd get up early and get the kids ready and get them to daycare. And she was doing everything. She was very far from lazy. But when you're with someone who constantly tears you down, it's really easy to believe those narratives. And especially if you're an empath and a people pleaser, those narratives can really take an intense effect on how you see yourself. So after the break, I'm going to give you into some other strategies we can use to start dismantling this mindset, as well as how to protect yourself if you're finding yourself in that situation. If this is resonating with you and you're feeling like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm living my life based on what everyone else is telling me I'm supposed to do, or fear that if I don't do what they say, that, I'm going to be being out to be the villain. And I know for me in my life, being the villain is like the worst thing in the world. It really is triggering for me because I try so hard to be a good person. But I've learned that, at the end of the day, if someone's going to see me as the villain, there's a million ways they can paint me as the villain in their story, and I can't control how they tell that narrative. Stick around, guys. Welcome back to Good Enough. I am your host, Jamie Vollmoeller, and today we are talking about how to dismantle the narratives that other people tell us about our own life story. Because those narratives, especially when they're not positive, can feel really limiting, and they certainly impact our ability to see the full range of choices and options that we have at our disposal. And that to me is so important for my work and working with my clients, and my staff's work and working with our clients is helping them see, what choices are there that they have never even thought about.
Thank you for listening to Good Enough with a Trauma Therapist. This is your host, Jamie Vollmoeller. If you live in the states of New York or Missouri, we'd love to work with you. New Yorkers, give us a call at Long Island EMDR at 631-503-1539 or visit our website at liemdr.com.
So before the break, we were talking about,
and for those of you living in Missouri, please call Brave Counseling and Psychiatry at 573
but was still struggling with all these beliefs about her. And where we really started was just trying to help her see how irrational that was. That, you were being called lazy when you worked 3 jobs at one time with 2 infants at home. That's not a statement that actually makes any kind of logical sense to anyone. Like, if we look at the facts here, you're actually very hardworking and dedicated and kind of a go-getter. But, when you have someone pointing out all the little tiny things that you're not doing, it could feel, especially when you have low self-confidence to begin with, like, oh, well, I'm just still not good enough and I'll just never be enough. And it's really beautiful when we start to let go of the things that other people tell us about themselves and see our story in a very different way. And she was able to look at herself and be like, no, I am strong. And no matter what happened, I made sure that my bills were paid and my kids were fed and clothed. And, I just worked my butt off to make sure that I did whatever I could to keep things together. And that actually shows a lot of strength and dedication. And I'm capable, right? And those things start to feel more true in our bodies, right? And it also helps them when we know these things, when those people or people like those people that share that same kind of narrative or limiting beliefs about what we should or should not be doing come to us and, make demands or make these comments. It becomes a lot easier when you no longer believe I'm lazy and you start to believe like, no, I'm extremely hardworking and dedicated and I'm an excellent, partner, employee, everything. I'm a go-getter. I'm a winner. It becomes easier to set those personal boundaries to keep your own mental sanity and not have to absorb so much of that toxic energy. And it becomes so much easier to say no and say, yes to things that you need in your life to keep yourself seen and yourself happy, right? There are so many people that I know that, make these big decisions. If we really even think about people I don't even know, like if you look at Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or any of these people that had these crazy ideas that were really, really successful, most people around them didn't think that they were like these wonderful humans in the start. It's like, oh, this person's crazy. They have these crazy grandiose ideas that are never going to work. And they just keep going through because they believe in themselves. And that is truly the power of freeing ourselves from the narratives that others tell us, because it opens up the possibilities for us to believe in our own strength and our own internal power and our own ability to create the life that we want to live. And that is truly healing and amazing. Leaving a toxic relationship, like there are so many women that'll be like, my family will be disappointed in me if I leave my husband. I'm a burden to them. I have nowhere to go. And if we believe those things, that could even prevent that woman from having that conversation with her family to be like, hey, I need a transition plan. Can you help me here? And really delay her ability to leave that toxic situation for herself, for her children, and causes more damage in the long run. So if you are a person who really struggles or with the negative perceptions that others have about you, and even if you believe them deeply, especially if you believe them deeply, I really, really encourage you to get a good therapist, a challenging therapist who's going to lovingly challenge you to work through those thoughts, because we are only as limited as we limit ourselves. I mean, I say all the time, I am my biggest critic, and most of my clients are their own biggest critics, because we are so much harder on ourselves than we are with just about everyone else. So it's really important to reflect on our own lives, on the stories that we tell ourselves about our lives. Do we tell ourselves that, we're victims, or do we tell ourselves that we're survivors, or do we tell ourselves that we're, are we leaders or are we followers? Like, the stories that we tell ourselves really, really do shape how we act in the world. It shapes how much confidence you have going into every single conversation. It shapes how much confidence you have in setting and holding your own boundaries. It shapes how much confidence you have in going to your boss and justifying your raise when you deserve it. It is extremely, extremely important for you to believe in your own capabilities and to start to recognize the unconscious narratives that you've accepted about yourself and how they might be limiting your life and limiting your happiness. And when you start sharing that journey with other people, I mean, I could remember writing my college essay for graduate school. It was so hard for me. So this whole essay was about all the things that I overcome in my teenage years and, why I was super passionate about mental health. Every time I read it to myself, it still sounded like I was a victim. And I really struggled because at that point in my life, in my early 20s, like I still felt like a victim. I still felt in my core like I was helpless and all these things just happened to me. And it really helped to talk to someone else to, instead of being like, these things happened to me and looking at all the things that went wrong, of really looking further into that and seeing, okay, but how did you overcome all those things? All those things happened and you still graduated high school, graduated college, got into the top schools, successfully completed internships, got a job before you even graduated. Like I was a highly successful human and I still felt like an absolute failure because I just still was caught in this victim mentality where I did not feel I had control over my life. And the more therapy that I did, the more work I did, the more introspection on how much I've overcome and how much internal strength and resilience that really requires, the more I really started to believe, holy heck, I am capable of anything. And I truly believe that when you are working through the issues that, or the narratives that you've been told about your childhood. There's so many of us that are told, we're not good kids, or we're not good students, or we're not smart, or we're not good at making friends, right? Even little things like that. Like, think about the things that you were told in childhood that still impact you today when you go into social situations or you go in to have difficult conversations. Like, if you don't believe that you're capable of executing that shows in your confidence level, that shows in the words that you choose. And I'm really, really passionate about helping everyone truly live their best lives, because when we're staying in these narratives and we're staying in these situations that don't make us feel good because we're worried about what others are going to think or say about our actions, it limits us. And there's truly no reason ever to let someone else's opinion of you or the fear that they might think something negative about you prevent you from doing something that is crucial for you to enjoy your life and to live the best life that you can have. And you can give our office a call if you are in need of support in working through your own issues and learning to feel empowered and confident in yourself. Please call us. And I want to remind you guys that you are good enough.
Thank you for listening to Good Enough with the Trauma Therapist. We appreciate you listening. While our host may provide some personal and professional advice, we want to remind you that this show is for entertainment purposes only. Each individual situation is unique, and Good Enough is not a substitute for mental health treatment. If you need a therapist and are located in New York or Missouri, feel free to reach out to us at live or brave-mo.com.